Hello, peeps and creeps, and welcome to the Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
We are the Fright Club and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. On tonight's episode, we're talking about David Bruckner's amazing debut feature film, The
Ooh.
Ritual.
Ooh.
And we're back with a brand new season of Monday Night Frights, Danny.
Hey!
Where have we
Oh
been?
my goodness. Where
Where have
have
we
we
been?
been?
It's been
What's been
3 months.
going on? It's been over 3 months. What has been the crack?
I don't
What have
know.
we been up to?
I
I
don't know.
mean,
We barely even spoke to each other for fuck's
it's
sake.
actually been crazy. Yeah, we've been so busy in those 3 months with like everything, like work, personal lives. You've been flat out with the Fright Club website. With I mean, he's covered
Fright Fest.
Fright.
I know, and you've been busy, obviously, you've been mad at work and stuff, and it's been good. It's been good to catch up, and we've been planning on getting back to it, and we've had to put it off for a little while, but we are back finally. We are back,
We're
so
here. We have returned.
we have
We
we
have
are back
returned
for good. I
for
want you
good.
back. I want you back. I don't know.
I want
Well,
you
for
back for good.
we're back for at least 10 episodes in season 6. Going forward, we're going to try and do 10 episodes per season.
10 episodes.
I know. So just to keep it nice
Yeah,
number 10.
we'll keep it. We'll keep it nice. We'll keep it fresh.
Mhm.
There are side projects,
There
stuff,
will
other
be
stuff happening in the
there
background
will be some
that
stuff
will
happening
drop info on later.
later
Not
in the
later
video.
this episode,
Not on
but
the episode, no.
later
On
via
social
our social
media.
media
Yes, yes, yes.
website, and we might talk about it in future episodes. But for now, there's stuff. There's stuff.
Yes. I just want to take this time now to thank everyone for supporting us on Twitter and Instagram at the Fright Club and for visiting the website during all our coverage for Fright Fest. That was the first big festival that we covered. So appreciate anyone that read any of the reviews or read any of the editorials or checked out some of our exclusive interviews that we had on there. So thank you very much for all that. But we are back at doing what we do best, talking shite about horror films.
We're here
And
to talk at you.
we are ganching about The Ritual, which
Oh,
was released in 2017 and was directed by David Bruckner. This was his first proper feature film. He had done segments in anthologies before and stuff like that, but this is the first one that he's worked on his own. The whole film on his own. So he is the director of the new Hellraiser movie, which I'm super hyped about.
yep. The images
Um,
so far coming out for that have got me feeling particularly
Horny,
scroused, scroused,
Scroused.
scared-aroused,
Oh,
scroused.
okay, Scroused. Yeah, really looking forward to seeing Jamie Clayton as the lead Cenobite and
Mhm.
just the look of it. I know we haven't seen much of it, we've only seen a few images, but just loving what I'm seeing so far. So it's dropping on Hulu in America on October the 7th, and I'm really hoping that it's going to drop on Disney Plus.
You imagine it would.
I would imagine so.
Mhm.
But it was written by Joe Burton, who was mostly a TV writer. You know, he'd worked on some British TV before, like Humans and there was a war thing, Our World War and stuff. So he'd written some episodes on that, and he adapted a novel by a writer called Adam Neville, which was released in 2011 called The Ritual, and he made the script out of that book. And Danny, this was the first time that you saw the film. I had seen it
This
a few years ago when it dropped on Netflix, but just without going into too many details, first thoughts?
loved it. I kind of went into it at the start, kind of being like, "Oh, I've seen this before." A
Mm.
lads, lads trip horror movie. Here we go. Sort of expect the same sort of thing, you know. I think world. I kind of, because I think the first version this I'd ever seen that kind of used this idea of like lads trip gone wrong was World's End. Edgar Wright's World's End. So I
Mm.
always kind of have that idea of it in my head, and then I'd seen a few others like I'm trying to think of some other ones that I've seen, and they've all the names have gone out of my head. But yeah, it's just that idea of like lads trip gone wrong. So I sort of at the
Hostel.
start had written, yeah, Hostel and what do you call the one like Cockneys versus Zombies? I think does that whole
Yeah.
thing and strippers, zombie strippers and all that sort of thing. Where you're kind of like this is going to be maybe a bit kind of silly because it's a group of lads, but then also the tone of this one was a bit more serious, so maybe it won't be so silly. And it definitely was. It wasn't silly, but it did have a couple of. There was one moment in particular that we'll talk about that actually did make me fucking burst laughing out loud. But yeah, I think it was one of those ones that as it started to get into it more, I was like, okay, I'm actually really intrigued by this now, and I'm started to actually get really absorbed into it, which was fantastic because at the start I was a bit like, I think I'm almost ready to write this off from the get go. Um, but yeah, really enjoyed it,
It,
and
it does have a lot of tropes,
yeah,
and there is some predictable scenarios that happen,
mhm,
particularly the first half of the movie. It sort of flows the way most of those type of movies do flow.
yeah,
But it's super atmospheric and it looks gorgeous, and I really enjoyed it the first time I watched it. And when I rewatched it for this episode, I was like, "Fuck, your man Bruckner's good." Like,
hmm,
I'm really looking
hmm.
forward to Hellraiser, and he also directed a film a few years ago called The Night House, starring Rebecca
Nice.
Hall, which is on Disney Plus right now. I reviewed it at the start of the year. It's fantastic, sort of ghost story type thing. So check that out, Danny, and anybody that's watching this that hasn't seen that film, you should really go and check that out now. So it was co-produced by Andy Serkis and Jonathan Cavendish,
Yes,
his
I was going to
company,
ask because it's
the
the
Imaginarium.
Imaginarium.
Yep.
Yeah, I noticed that at the start. I was like, hey.
So that's really cool to see that. It's mostly a British production.
Mhm.
Although it's set in Sweden, it was filmed in the Carpathian Mountains in Romania.
Oh.
And like, my God, the scenery is
Oh, the scenery is
unreal.
absolutely stunning, and we'll chat about it a bit more in a bit. But I love how whenever they start going into the forest and they combine that forest scenery with the like off license
Oh yeah,
scenery,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that those as set pieces
So
was
clever. Yeah.
absolutely stunning. Like I love the whole aesthetic of like that uh strip lighting
Mm.
the like row of trees with all the shelves of drink along it and that kind of whiteness against all the moss and trees. Fuck,
I know.
beautiful. I absolutely love that. That was one of my favorite set pieces from the whole thing was those dreams nightmare sequences.
Uh-huh.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Um, Real quick recap of what it's about. A couple of lads are on a night out, and one of their mates tragically is murdered.
Of course, it
Of
was the good guy Irishman. Like,
course,
of
oh,
course, it was
absolutely,
him that had to get whacked.
absolutely.
Like,
Couldn't
you
be
know,
one of the arseholes. Like,
the most decent Irishman you'd ever meet, and he
I know.
gets killed in the first 15 minutes.
But the weird thing is that he gets murdered by a couple of guys that are robbing this off license. But his mate, Luke, I think his name is, played
Hmm.
by Rafe Spall, um, is overcome with fear, and he doesn't interject, so he pretty much allows these guys to kill him. And then we cut to a few months later, and they're away in Sweden, which is actually Carpathian Mountains in Romania, and they're on a hiking trip, and they're doing this because the lads were all out discussing a trip that they were all going to go on, and your man who died, who his name was Ron, what was his name?
Ron or Rob? Was it Ron
Rod,
or
Rob,
Rod? Rod?
Rod,
Rod? Rodney?
Rod or Rob, either
Rod?
Rod or Rob, not sure which one it is, but he wanted to
Andrew.
go and do this trip, but none of the other guys wanted to do it. They all wanted to go to Vegas or go away to like on a
Ibiza.
proper lads trip, like.
Oh,
But he was
we're
like, no,
going to
let's go,
Ibiza.
let's go and get a bit of culture and go and see the
They want to
see
go on the or is it the King's Trail? He calls it the
the
go through the mountains and do the King's
yeah,
Trail. Is
yeah.
that?
So they're basically in Sweden doing this kind of against their will, but as a tribute to their dead friend, and that
Oof.
sets up the whole tone of the film because they're there. They don't really want to be there, but they want to sort of pay tribute to their friend. and
Yeah.
then things start happening.
Starts
Uh,
getting a bit wild and
Starts getting a wee bit
weird.
spoopy. Um,
Super spoopy.
yeah, it's Rob. The guy's called Rob, by the way, not Rod.
Rob.
So
Rob.
first of all, what I love about the film is obviously I love all the stuff in the forest and
Hmm.
what we get to, but I love how the setup is. Their friends are there. They don't really want to be there. They know that they're there to pay tribute, and we get that lovely scene where they go to the top of the mountain and they
Hmm.
put Rob's photo and they light a few candles and they say their piece, and but you immediately get this feeling that of uneasiness with
Yeah.
there's one guy in particular, Dom,
Hmm.
who has a bit of a strange relationship with Luke because he thinks that it was Luke's fault and he thinks that Luke should have done more for his friend. And you see that later on in the film when they have a proper argument and the truth comes out, or how they feel about the truth comes out. So, but you get a little bit of that at the start, and I love how that's kind of subtle enough that it just sets up the relationship between
Yeah.
all the guys. And
It's
I
yeah. You've
Go
got.
ahead.
I love that. Just you say in that moment, when they go up to the top of the mountain, they lay the photo, they lay the little dog Teddy up there, and they're all kind of passing around passing around the hip flask, and
Hmm.
take a wee drink and pour out and stuff. But as you say, Dom's reaction to Luke, but then Hutch stepping in, you kind of get immediately within that moment. Again, you have it at the very start in the bar when they're talking about where they're going to go. You get a glimpse of their kind of characters, but then you have that traumatic event happen, and you see a massive change in look from that opening to
Hmm.
this moment. But you get to see how that event impacts that character dynamic between them and also the characters themselves.
Hmm.
Yeah, which again is brought out really straight away through the reactions between those two contrasting scenes, which is yeah, really again, both moments is about them sharing a drink,
Aye.
but they're completely different people from the opening and this moment at the top of the mountain, which I think's great. And again, it's great to see a character like Hutch, who's meant to be the kind of middleman from them all, who is also kind of their leader without being an overbearing leader, because he's the one with the map and the compass, and he's the one that actually picks the spot that they're going to go up to. But ultimately, it's their leader that will go first. Which again,
Yeah.
when that moment happens, I was just like, "Oh fuck, what are they going to do now?" Like
I know.
that's meant to be their guy, and he's just fucking been impaled on a tree.
I think I'm getting vibes of it might sound a wee bit out there, but Stand By Me, like an adult
Mm,
version of Stand By Me. If you kind of
okay.
look at the dynamic between the four guys, you have the leader is Hutch, who is kind of a leader, but you can tell he's not, you said he's not an overbearing leader.
Mhm.
He's a smart guy, and he sort of would remind you a little bit of the River Phoenix kind of character. Maybe he's not a bad boy as such, but
Yeah.
he has that respect from the other guys.
Mhm.
And then if you look at all the other characters, you could sort of match them up to some of the other characters from Stand By Me, the group, the kids.
Yeah.
And I was getting that vibe from it the second time that I watched it.
Mhm.
I feel like the film is very much, if I had to describe it, it would be the Blair Witch Project meets Deliverance
I got
meets Kill List
yeah, actually, I got Kill List vibes. I did get the Kill List vibes with all the kind of Nordic sketching,
carvings and stuff.
the
Yeah.
ruins sketched into the trees and stuff. And but I kind of got uh at the start I was kind of watching. I was like, "Fuck, World's End lads movie, let's go!" Woo-hoo. But then whenever they get to the cottage in the woods, I was like, fucking hell, Evil Dead, here we go.
Mm.
I got very kind of evil, and it was when they start having, they find the like ritualistic
The
statue
effigy.
upstairs, the effigy in the upstairs of the cottage, and then the nightmares that follow. I was like, this is fucking some Evil Dead spooky shit. And yeah, very much Blair Witch Project as well in there too.
There's a great film. I think it's on Netflix called A Classic Horror Story, and there's a segment.
Italian?
Yeah, yeah. There's a segment of that which is kind of similar to that part where they're in the cabin or the cottage. It's not a cabin, it's a cottage, but it's got an effigy and it's quite similar to that.
Hmm.
I loved that whole sequence because I'd forgotten that it happened that early. I thought it kind of went on and on. I thought it was more of a slow burn,
Yeah,
but
but
they kind of
it's not really.
it's not super early, but I just for some reason I didn't think that they kind of came to that conclusion. I didn't think that they had that shared experience
Yeah.
at that point. I thought it was later on. What I liked about that scene was that they all had this shared experience. They all know that it was real,
Hmm.
but they don't talk about it.
They don't talk about it for a while, and it's even whenever they do try to talk about it, it's oh, what do you call him? Hold on. Phil. When Phil tries to talk about it,
Hmm.
it's Hutch who basically turns around and is like, listen, I don't want to psychoanalyze this.
Hmm.
I was just it was just a nightmare, and I woke up in my pants covered in my own piss. I don't want to talk about it. I feel like that's such a typical British man thing to do, is to just not acknowledge what's happened. Like, let's move past this.
Grim and
We've
Barrett.
Yeah, exactly. We've all been embarrassed because we've been a bunch of scaredy boys. Let's just get through the woods and get to the lodge that we want to get to.
Yeah.
Um, but I was watching and just actually watching it from the point that they start. So, 6 months later, and they're trekking through, and they've woke up from their wee tents, and they're setting off for the day. And I was just like, it reminds me of Duke of Edinburgh. I was getting major like Duke of Ed vibes of
Yeah.
being like, to be back in them mountains and out camping and all. And then they get to the cottage, and I was just like, even that night, they decided to still kind of stay there and then leave in the morning. I was like, fuck that. Like, if I'd been out in Duke of Ed and that happened to be in a wee bothy or something, I'd have been fucking nah.
I
Out
but
of there, lickety split.
what's the
Like,
other option? You're inside with your friends, or you're outside in the pissing rain in the
go in the big
darkness.
spigos with the fucking hung up deer
Yeah,
carcass,
yeah.
which again, that was fucking grisly looking, like absolutely
Um,
grisly.
I think the fact going back to them not talking about it, like that's kind of the whole theme, I
Yeah.
suppose, of the film is that it is about I wouldn't say maybe toxic masculinity, but it is about masculinity. Basically, they're scared to um show any sort of weaknesses to their friends.
It's a fear of weakness, but it's also then of a fear of fear as well. Like, I feel like that's the big thing with Luke, is that he doesn't face his fears in that moment to save Rob. So he kind of, whenever Rob or whenever they go into the off license, and they notice the girl behind the counters being attacked, and in that moment, then the two fellas, the two junkies who are like robbing the place, come out of like a back room, and Luke hides in behind one of the shelves with a bottle of vodka in his hand, and he can see whenever they're like threatening Rob and asking him for his wallet and for his watch, and then it's his wedding ring that he doesn't want to give up, and that's why he gets smacked with a pipe. But we cut between him being threatened and robbed, and Luke holding the bottle of vodka and looking at it like, I could do something with this,
Hmm.
but it's his fear that holds him back, and it's the whole way through this. He is constantly too afraid to face whatever's in front of him until the very end of the film, which obviously we'll get talking about
Hmm.
soon. But yeah, it's ultimately, as you say, about masculinity and how masculinity is perceived, and how to be masculine you have to face those fears. But sometimes it's almost too much sometimes to face. And if in the moment that it's too much, we just don't talk about it.
Yeah.
We don't talk about the things that have made us afraid.
I think as well, it's kind of ironic that he doesn't face his fears, but for most of the film, he's the one that's sort of saying, like, letting the guys know, hang on, there's something out there.
Mhm.
There's something happening here. Now, that's obviously because he has that fear, but in a way, he's sort of slowly building himself up to that end scene where he does face his fear.
Yeah.
And every part of the film, he's starting to recognize that he does have to address it and he can't hide anymore. But he needs the reassurance from the group.
Yeah.
And then obviously a lot of times they just sort of fob him off. Hutch especially um, is the most masculine, I suppose, out of the bunch, and he's saying, "No, look, it's fine. We're okay. We'll just put our heads down tonight, and crack on in the morning and stuff, and then obviously it's too late. And as you said, he's the first one to go.
Yeah,
That scene where he goes is pretty brutal. Like
it's Bergen. But
it's
again, Gav, we've gone too far ahead of ourselves.
halfway.
You have forgotten one of the most important things here on Monday Night Frights.
Oh, the
That's
numbers.
where them numbers at, Gav? Where them
Yeah,
numbers at?
we started getting into the story and we forgot all
Uh,
about all the boring shit.
tell
So
us those numbers first.
I do have numbers. I sort of have numbers. I don't know the budget.
One,
Do you know
a
the budget?
two. Let me see if I can find a budget for you right now.
I know the box office. So it debuted at TIFF, mostly to positive reviews, and it was bought by Netflix for 4.5 million. It was released in cinemas in October of 2017. It had a very short release, and I think it made about 1.5 million. And then once it came out of the cinemas, it then went in onto Netflix in February of 2018.
Mhm.
And I think I watched it like a few months after it aired on Netflix. But do you have a budget?
I have managed to find a rough budget, so it was about $1 million.
Okay, so it made back on its cinema release, it made back its money, but
Mhm.
obviously it was purchased for 4.5 million by Netflix, and then I don't know how that all fucking works, but
Yeah,
I'm sure they made money somehow.
yeah.
Um, we spoke briefly before we get into the story much. We did speak. I want to speak about how it looks because the film could have been less successful had it not looked as good as it does.
Mhm.
The director of photography is a guy called Andrew Shulkind.
Sure, kind.
I've definitely pronounced his name wrong, and I apologize. But some of the shots in this film are absolutely gorgeous. One of the shots, the recurring shots that you see, is the shots of all the trees. So the forest, whenever they go into the forest, it's a very dense forest with thin trees, and they're all really close together, and it looks amazing. And they do these sort of like wide shots, but it's that thing where the camera kind of focuses in on one thing, and you're not sure if there's something there. And then there's quite a few times where they do that. They set
Those
it up.
like slow zooms in
Yes, yes, yes,
through the like
yes.
lanes of tree. Like whenever you've been in a forest and you look through and it just looks like rows and rows and lanes of trees. I love all that. And again,
And
this movie really like
yeah.
plays with that idea of depth perception and are they all trees? Are they possibly not
Hmm.
trees? Who knows? I actually did think I was like, is the monster going to be like some sort of like ent?
And
I was like, is it going to be a
well,
fucking
man,
tree monster?
th-
That did play in
there
my
is
mind a
one
bit.
shot. There's that shot where you see the hand,
Mhm.
but there's one shot later on where the guys are walking off, and it doesn't really set it up as if something's there. But then you see something move. You see a wee bit. You see the outline of the creature. So that's the first time you kind of see what it kind of looks like as
But
an
again, it's
outline.
still very mossy looking. And then I was kind of like, is that a dinosaur? I was like, there was this kind of moment. I was like, it's going to be some sort of fucking ritualistic T Rex.
That would be mad. Well,
Imagine demonic dinosaurs.
small
Demonic
hands.
dinosaurs. It does have little creepy arms that like
Yeah.
extend out to pick you up. Um,
Uh,
but imagine, demonic dinosaurs. Anyone want to make a movie about demonic dinosaurs? Has it
100%.
been done?
It's already there. It's definitely there. It's going to be one of those studios, the Asylum Studios or something like
Let
that.
us know in the comments
Put it in
below.
the comments
Demonic
below.
dinosaurs, are
Drop
they a
some
thing?
links.
Tell us because your boy wants to see them.
Hello. Um, what is your favorite dinosaur? Why is it the T-Rex? And if it was a demon, what would it be called? Just demon T-Rex or
Demonic, Demonicus Rex.
tri
This is maybe I don't
hmm,
know. Yeah, maybe perhaps. Let us know in the comments.
Lucifersaurus Rex?
Yes.
Demonis. I like your first answer.
Yes. I'm gonna call him Terry.
John.
My name is Terry. Give me your soul.
Why is it Stitch? That's your
No.
go-to voice when you have to do like an alien or an animal or
No.
something.
Alien, demonic creature. Hello. I'm gonna do
Uh,
that.
so one of the other things about this movie that I love, is the score. You know, it's
Yeah.
like super dread inducing, really builds up. Um, Beautiful, beautiful score by Ben Lovett, who has worked with Bruckner on, I think, all of his projects. He definitely worked with him on The Night House. I'm not sure if he's working on Hellraiser, but they've worked together before, and you could see why, because obviously they work together well. But the score is amazing in this, and it really adds to the horror of the film. A lot of it, there is a few jump scares,
Hmm.
but it's very atmospheric and it's very sort of all about dread.
I'm glad it didn't lean too heavily into the jump scare thing. Like, there's not anything I feel that really like jumps out at you on the screen. It's all very much like the thing is in shot and then moves out of shot, and I really like that. I like that it's already there and then moves away, or the thing will happen. Like, uh, there's the bit later on when we see like all the like dried up mummified acolytes who are actually
Mm,
still alive,
mm,
and the
mm,
wee mouth opens up and they start breathing and screeching. I was like, fucking hell, like that's
gasping
spooky.
for water.
That, oh my, oh, that bit really, because again, whenever we kind of hear the thing upstairs, you don't realize that it's actually a whole congregation
Mm, mhm, mhm,
of like these mummified acolytes. And yeah, like that bit really sort of got me in that I was kind of like, oh, there's an extra layer of spooky to this.
mhm.
And it's mummies. Who thought there
I
was going
know.
to be mummies?
I sort of spoke about earlier that the first half of the film does follow trends, and it's very much structured like how other films that you've seen like this.
Mhm.
Uh, there's always one of the group that gets injured, and they have to. Oh, we're slow. Either they break their ankle or hurt their knee in this, or something happens.
The thing is with that bit, whenever, so you're talking obviously about when Dom, his foot goes down into like a bit of a dip, a bit of a
Yeah,
ditch,
he fucks his
and
knee up.
he fucks it. Yeah, but the noise it makes, I was like, he's fucked his shit up.
Aye,
But they're all just like, "Ugh."
I
I'm like,
know.
no, if something makes a noise like that, you check it out. You don't just be like, somebody get him a pole. I'm like,
But what I did like about that was that they were all very nonchalant in a way, because that sort of
because the manly men.
no, well, okay, maybe it was that, but also it tells you a little bit about Dom's character and how
Mm,
he likes to be a bit of a drama queen, and he plays up a lot of that stuff.
yep.
And all three guys kind of agreed, okay, I'm sure he's fine, he's all right. And I think it says more about Dom's character and what they've been
Mm,
through. But it's also interesting to note that these guys aren't necessarily like best friends,
no.
in the sense that they were they were college friends, weren't they? And they had met up years later, and then
It was supposed to be
they
like their
decided to,
last hurrah kind of
yeah.
thing, isn't it? Yeah.
So it's not like they're best friends that hang out every single day, which is also interesting as well. But so someone definitely always gets injured in
Always.
these films. They never, ever, ever, ever follow the path that they're supposed to. They always try to take a shortcut. They
Mhm.
will never fucking learn. You never take a shortcut, no matter what. They end up taking a shortcut through a dense forest, which is why they come across this creature and all the shit happens. Had they stayed to the path and stayed on the clearance areas of the mountains, blah blah blah, it would have taken them a little bit longer, but they would have all got there in the end alive.
Yeah.
Um,
But there's always that one person that does call it out, in this case,
yes,
Dom, who
yes,
says, oh, during my time as a Boy Scout, my scout leader said if it was a shortcut, it wouldn't be a shortcut, it'd be a route. And then
yeah.
everybody bullies him and was like,
You were
you were
never.
never a Boy Scout.
See, I think
Um,
he's a wee bit like Corey Feldman's character from Stand By Me, where he obviously tells lies,
mhm,
and they know this, so they don't know if he's telling a lie or if he's bullshitting or if he's actually telling the truth, and they sort of just, I suppose he's kind of like the boy who cried wolf, where they just don't really take him seriously all the time.
yeah.
So I think that was a good aspect as well. But yeah, never fucking take a shortcut, and also they always find
Spooky shit.
a dead animal.
Spooky
Before
shit.
any spooky shit happens, they'll always find a dead animal on the road or
Yeah.
somewhere in whatever path that they go to. You think of like any of those fucking films that always is a dead animal. And
Has to
like
be.
you just know whenever you see a corpse, that's it.
Mhm.
Turn, get
Walk
back on
away.
the road.
Exactly. You see dead animal, spooky sigils, or ruins. Get out.
Well,
Just
definitely when you
leave.
see them, yeah, definitely when you see those, you should get the
Yeah.
fuck out of there.
Why do people
Yeah.
hang about when they see that shit? I don't understand. Like, have we not seen enough to know that they're bad?
They mustn't watch any horror movies, these guys.
Maybe,
They're
maybe.
lads, they
Yeah.
just like drinking beer and
Drink a beer and go to Ibiza.
yo,
You.
darts and all,
No.
yo.
Not like us, Scav. They'll never get
Uh,
us. We'll never get attacked by any spoopy beings.
Hello, not a
Not a
chance.
demon,
We're
a
too
ghost, or a
clever.
witch.
We are
We'll see
far
them
too
coming
clever.
from a mile away.
I know, but yeah, so I do like that whenever they go into the cottage. First of all, that's a lovely set piece. And I
Really
love the
nice.
banter. I do love the banter between the guys. It sort of reminded me. I've got a two part kind of uh comparison here. The banter reminded me a little bit of Dog Soldiers, maybe not as much
Mm.
as the soldiers, but the
Hmm.
scenario and the situation at the first half of the film reminded me of The Descent. Reminded me of the girls from The Descent, where there's a group of girls or a group that comes together, and then you slowly find out that one or two of them don't 100% trust each other.
Yeah.
And even though the ritual, I suppose, if you had to put it into a box, it would be sort of it's in the folk horror space towards the end of the film, but really, right up until they get to that point where they get to the camp, it's a survival horror film. It's all
Yeah.
about survival. It's a creature survival horror film, and I love that, which is obviously what The Descent is.
Yeah.
And it really reminded me of that kind of
Hmm. I'm,
dynamic.
I'm glad we got to see the creature in this because that's, I think, one of my things going into it as well was that it was all going to be like alluded to, or else it was just going to be like, they all go out to like the Scandinavian wilderness, and like trip on
Oh, fucking near
shrooms.
choke there.
Wilderness.
What?
The Scandinavian wilderness. Yeah, they just go out to the Scandinavian wilderness and like trip on shrooms, and none of it was real, but they've fallen victim to like some Scandinavian cult group, and it was all just going to be either a dream or just allude to some greater evil. I'm actually really delighted that we got to see the creature in this,
Mm-hmm.
and what a fucking fantastic look creature it
Mm-hmm.
is too.
Mm-hmm. I think the creature design is one of the best, one of the most unique and inventive creature designs that I've seen in recent years.
Yeah.
What is it? It's got hooves. It's like a giant stag.
It's like a big stag, but then its head is like an upside down person's body. But instead of feet, it's got the antlers come off, and then the wee arms come down, and the head's like pushed into the body. So it's almost like
You
in
can't see a
this like
face. You can see the
hooded.
eyes though
You
in
can
the
see the
mouth.
wee glinting eyes, and then the wee mouth, and it just seems to feed on like fear.
Hmm.
And then also likes to hang people up on trees, like their little coats, like little coat rack trees, and it's
Hmm.
just like I like the way because there is that moment where you get to see it like pick somebody up and just be like, oh,
Yeah,
and just
it,
place them
it's
up on the tree. It's
it's
so
Dom.
delicate.
It's Dom. He does it really
Yeah,
gently,
it's really
and it's
delicate and just sort of puts them on. Like again, it's not like a forceful thrust. He just kind of pushes them on, and you're like, that's not a very threatening motion, but it's also
yeah,
grotesque in that he's being impaled onto a
yeah,
tree.
yeah.
But yeah, I love the design. It kind of reminded me of a more spooky version of the like forest god from Princess Mononoke. Have you ever seen it?
Mm,
And there's like the stag in it, but the stag sometimes has like a human face
hmm.
or the stag face. And it's when it has the human face and it's all kind of smushed in, it kind of has the same vibe as the creature in this.
I love that you can't put pigeonhole the creature.
No,
It's got hooves. It kind of looks like a giant stag. It's
it
got
kind of
spike.
looks like a tree.
It's got spikes. Yeah, it looks.
It's
Yeah, you're right.
mossy and it's very green and mossy and foliagey. Um,
It from a distance it looks like a big horse. Like,
yeah.
and its head. You're right. It's kind of a weird shaped head, and I love that the hands and the wee arms that come out that are obviously human.
Mhm.
kind of look like pinchers.
Yeah,
You know,
it's
it's like a pinchers from a giant insect.
yeah.
So there's, it's all these different animals put together. It's really,
It's
really
even
fucking amazing.
like the effigy that we see in the cottage at the start, we just assume is like shaped like a human body with antlers coming off the arms. But you notice then whenever Luke looks down at the feet, that they're not
Hmm.
feet, they're actually the little arms, the
Yeah.
little hands coming off,
Hmm.
which that early on in the film you don't really understand what it
Hmm.
is, but it's just the head of the beast. Like
Yeah.
that's what the effigy is, which again I was like, oh fuck, like cool. I like that. I
So
really interesting.
yeah, and the creature, I think a lot of it was CGI'd, but they did have a physical head that they
Mhm.
used, like a giant fucking practical head. It was a practical effect, and they had somebody inside it with like prosthetic arms.
Yeah.
So, and obviously they were real hands whenever you got seen close-ups and stuff. So I loved that they did do, there's a practical effect side to it as well.
Yeah.
Um, I will, in a way, I obviously agree that I'm glad that they showed the creature because I feel like you have to show the creature. They still didn't show a lot of it. Like they didn't
No.
you saw it in its entirety, but it's not like you've seen like super
No, it's always
detailed.
kind of
Yeah, it's all dark and stuff still.
silhouetted. Yeah, it's always dark, silhouetted in shadow, hidden behind trees. I do love that moment. I love the kind of close-ups of it though, whenever it's pretend to be Dom's wife, and then the
Mm,
eyes glint and it
hmm.
changes, and you see the full kind of head of it as it like grabs him and picks him up. Like that bit's fantastic. And then the bit whenever Luke is running through the forest away from it, and it fucking spears him from
Knocks
the
him.
side. Oh my god, I was like, Jesus, like this thing is actually proper going for him, like through the aisles, the off license aisles.
Hmm.
That again, seeing that set piece in the first Nightmare in the Cottage, and then later on during that pursuit from the monster, I lived for that. I thought I really liked just the juxtaposition between the forest and the off license white glow.
There's a moment at the end there with Luke and him. Just after that moment when Luke and the creature come sort of face to face, and then the creature stands up, and he like properly stands up, and
And the
it
wee
kind of
hands come
it
together.
changes. Yeah, it changes the whole shape, and it's really well done, really well designed. I have written the guy who designed it. Keith Thompson is the guy who sort of did the original concepts, and then obviously he worked with director David Bruckner to come up with these different details and stuff. And I think it's a fantastic design.
Mhm.
Um, yeah. So what I was saying was, I'm glad that they showed the creature. What I will say, I don't know if we needed to have so much of the sacrifice stuff at the end because
Mm.
like with the humans and the cult or whatever, because it did start to fall into a kind of basic sacrifice movie, which we knew that that's where it was going. Um, and it works okay, but I don't know, maybe there was a little bit too much interaction.
Just
Maybe we
cut it
we
down a
just
bit.
needed to see a group of people and then him being chained up, and then that was it really. I'm
But
not sure if we
Gav,
needed all the interaction.
it led to one of the best interaction moments
Tell me this is the
in the
end.
movie. This is the bit that fucking I proper was like, ha
I don't know
ha!
what you're talking about here.
So it's whenever, so obviously, what do you call the friend, the kind of goofy one who's also got a lot of money. Phil gets killed. Phil gets killed they, whenever so the whenever they're trying to like run away from the creature. So Luke's gone up onto a hillside. He's managed to kind of see off in the distance the way they should be going. You also
Hmm.
see some smoke off and fire off in the distance, and he turns around and says to Dom and Phil, like, I've seen the way, let's go. And they're like, oh, we've just heard something, like something's happening. And then the creature, basically, we don't see, again, we haven't really properly seen this creature at this point, but you just see like Phil getting like ripped away into the woods. But the only thing you really see is his torch like flashing about
Hmm.
and like being swung up in the air and all. And then there's like a red glaze goes over the torch. And I was like, ooh, little bloodlight there.
Hmm.
And then it drops, hits the ground. The torch hits the ground, and the next thing, as Dom and Luke are running away, they find that trail, the path that's lit with the
Oh
stumps.
yeah, the
And
fire.
then
Yeah,
they look up as they're following that there, then they see Bill is like impaled up on one of the trees.
face first,
Face first,
which was
impaled,
nice.
all the
Yeah.
branches sticking out of him, which again, so sinister. And then was it they end up stumbling upon the campsite and get like knocked over, and Luke gets booted in the head. You see from his like POV
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
boot, and he gets kicked. Um, and then he wakes up, and the two of them are chained up in this like other cottage that has like all these creepy, spooky, demonic noises and screechings going on upstairs. And then, as you say, it kind of plays out a bit. It's kind of like, oh, he's the chosen one because he has the marks on his chest, and they're going to sacrifice Dom because the beast needs appeased, and it's some great elder god from times gone by. So we got all this kind of
The
context.
Jotun, I think, is the name of the
Yotan, hello
god.
Yotan.
Yeah, it's like a
uh but
whatever.
then it's whenever so Dom's been sacrificed. We've seen his sacrifice happen, and they're preparing Luke to basically been like taken into the fold because he's been chosen, because he's got like the 5 wee like puncture wounds in his chest, which all the wee cultists seem to have. And he ends up like managing to free himself and goes upstairs and sees like the dried out mummy people and sets them on fire. He just starts setting them on fire. And then as he's coming down the stairs,
Man, this is the
and
longest
your
story ever.
wee,
Oh
it's
wait,
just this
I
is the
know what it
moment
is.
he's coming down the stairs,
Yeah.
and your wee witchy woman like confronts him, and it's kind of like, and she fucking sparks her.
Just
He
boom.
fucking he just stops. He just sort of looks at her and just just drops her, and I was like, what the fuck?
What did you expect them to do?
It was just such a like, I don't know, like push her out the way or try and like confront
No,
her
no,
or
no,
do.
no.
It was just the way he just fucking sparked her. I fucking lost it. I just did not expect, and there's almost like the way the music's kind of going, and then it just kind of stops for that moment, and I'm like, did they do that for a funny? Was that meant to be a funny?
I
I don't.
I don't think it was like a comedy sting, but I know
Yeah,
what you mean. I think it was a bit of a throwback to earlier on in the movie when he punched Dom,
yeah,
because he
yeah,
punches Dom, and Dom sort of approaches him and says that it was his fault that his mate
yeah,
died, and he punches him. But as soon as he does it, he goes, "Oh fuck," and he regrets it because he shouldn't have done it, and he
yeah,
walks away, and it's a throwback to that moment. But I think it was just, I don't know. I don't think it was really for comedy effect. I think it was more for realism.
yeah.
You know,
It was one of those moments where I was just like, oh, he's just fucking, he just sparked this old
and
woman.
then straight after
Oh,
that, he gets the gun and he walks out, and the other guy comes in, and as soon as he sees the other guy, he's like, "Fuck off."
yeah.
And just the way he says it, the way he delivers that line's really, it is actually
Yeah.
quite funny.
It's funny,
Uh,
and again, I think it's because it seems so genuine. Like, I think this is one of those movies that, yes, while it's got its tropes, when it comes to the actions and dialogues of the characters, it's quite real. I
yeah,
think they
yeah,
react in a very genuine, real sort of way. So yeah, when he's like, fuck off, like get the fuck out of my way, and the fella's kind of speaking Norwegian,
Swedish.
Swedish, whatever. And he goes to shoot in the gun jams. And then when he's trying to fuck around reloading it again, it fucking fires on its own by accident,
Hmm.
you
Aye.
know.
So,
But yeah, you're right. The whole kind of that kind of lead up and stuff to that, we didn't necessarily need it. I like that we kind of get to see how these people essentially are living forever. But is any real sort of existence because they need to live as like dried out husk mummy
yeah,
people
yeah,
who are
yeah,
just like screeching in demonic tongue.
yeah. It doesn't really make sense, really, but I suppose that's what they believe, and that's the whole sort of weirdness behind the cult.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think it might have been. I mean, there still is a bit of ambiguity there. They don't fully explain everything.
No,
I think they could have just maybe left out a few things, but no, it doesn't ruin the film at all. Like, it's
no.
a fantastic end, and that's a great scene where he sort of runs to the edge of the clearing, and he looks back and he sees the creature carrying the other guy, and this is after he's burned the cabin, and you see the creature's sort of silhouette against the burning cabin, and it's a fucking beautiful shot.
Amazing.
And that's the first time you sort of see it in its entirety, and it's really quite breathtaking, really. And
Mm-hmm.
then obviously the creature then comes after him, and we get that chase scene.
It's because he shoots it. Like,
Oh, why? That's
no,
right.
I would
Aye.
just at that point I would have just been like, I'm out. I'm
See you later,
done.
mate. See
Like
you later.
some ancient god is not going to succumb to a single bullet. Fuck that. I'm not wasting my time
I
or
know.
my
And
ammunition.
it's a
I'm
it's
out.
like a shotgun as well. It's not as if it's like
It's
an
not even a
AK.
shotgun. It's a hunting rifle.
Is
It's
it?
like a single shot hunting rifle that he's using. It
But he
one
has
that
to
like
reload.
fucking
Yeah.
yeah, but it's single shot. Like there, yeah, that was going to do fuck all against some big stag demon.
Um, no, it's not going to, you're right, it's not going to do anything. But just to go back to the sort of, before we end here, to go back to some of my favorite sequences, you mentioned the sort of dream sequence.
Mm,
I thought they were amazing. I really loved just how easy they went from one scene into the next and how it all felt as if it was all one set. And I think it was one
mhm.
set. It looked like it was all one set. It felt to me like it was something out of Nightmare on Elm Street, like the especially that first one where he's dreaming, and I think he's either in the tent or he's in the no, he's in the cottage,
Yeah, the cottage. Yep.
where they all have that shared nightmare, but he's kind of you think it's just him that's having the nightmare first, and he wakens up, and then he opens the cottage door, and it's
Hmm.
just a supermarket, and it's lit up, and he walks into it, and
Yep.
it's really well done, really really good set
And
designer,
then
whoever was
what
in
is
charge
it?
of that.
Oh, he's up against one of the shelves and it falls down and then it's
You see
opens out into the
yeah,
forest. Ah, yeah, absolutely fun. It's weird that we only really get like Luke's nightmare, but we see how the others have reacted to their
I
nightmares
like that though.
coming out of it. Which yeah, I really like, and I like whenever you see like Phil up in front of the effigy, like holding his because the way he's sitting, he's sort of like he's almost like that there in front
Hmm.
of it, and I was like, he's fucking cut his wrists or some shit.
Yeah,
I was proper prepared for him to like pull his hand away and there'd just be like blood running down his arms, but he didn't get quite that far.
yeah.
But
He said he didn't go into details, but he said he was praying.
mhm.
So
Yeah, and he's like, I
that's
don't. The thing's got in my head. That's
yeah.
the. He's like, oh, it got in my head. It got in my head. Um,
And then
yeah,
later, Dom,
fantastic.
when they're tied up, Dom says that he saw his wife. He sort of explains what the nightmare was, and he saw his wife, and yeah, it's so so well done because I'm glad that you didn't see any of that, but then you sort of at near the end you sort of find out a little bit
You get a
of
wee
what
bit of
they went through.
Dom's.
Yeah.
You get a wee bit of Dom's whenever the he finally faces the creature.
Hmm.
When he
That was
appeared.
really spooky. I'd forgotten about that bit, and then when she came out, I was like, oh, that's
Yeah.
really clever. Like
And then
that's
her
really good.
eyes, it's when her eyes start to glint, and you're like, and then it changes, the form completely changes, just like, fuck,
I
spooky.
think Dom and Luke, Rafe Spall who plays Luke, and Sam Troughton who plays Dom are the two standouts.
Hmm.
I think the guy that plays Phil, he doesn't really have much to do. He's very good.
Yeah.
He's obviously more the sort of quieter one of the group, and Hutch is great as well. I think all four guys are very very good in this film. Um, Dom probably is the best out of them because he's so annoying. He's
Yeah.
really really annoying. But then near the end, you're like, oh, actually, he's not a bad guy. He's quite sweet, but he's so annoying through that middle part.
Yeah.
You're just like, fucking you die first, you cunt. But then he survives. Well, he survives to nearly the end.
Yeah. Do you think Rob was in on the culty shit?
Is this a theory that you're throwing out here?
No, again, it's not. I haven't actually read anything online or anything, but I was just thinking about it after. I was like, it's Rob's suggestion that they go and do this trail. Now, fair enough, if they'd followed the map, if they followed the actual trail, chances are they probably wouldn't have run
No,
into this cult. But
I don't think it's Midsummer. I don't think it's.
you don't think it was
No,
planned. You
no, I
don't
don't
think
think it was Midsummer.
maybe it was just a really shit Swedish Norwegian accent
What
he
is
was
it with
doing,
Sweden and
and
fucking cults, man?
it's you know what the last lot of years, Scandi horror has become like so much of a thing. Are we
Uh,
now moving away from like voodoo into like Norse
well,
horror?
I mean, obviously Scandinavian, the folk horror
Mhm.
side of that is an actual thing.
Yeah.
Folk tales and lore and all that shit.
Hmm.
Um, so there's quite a few of those type of movies out there, and they're always really good.
Yeah.
They're just
Really
really
enjoy
good.
them. Hmm.
But The Ritual, I think, is definitely up there. It's a different type of folk horror. It's not as culty
Hmm.
as Midsummer or
It's just a little cult.
Stuff
It's
like
not a
that.
big cult.
Just a small cult.
It's just a little cult. And to be fair, they all died anyway. They all get wiped out in that moment.
Aye, I know.
Oh yeah. I
What do
was
you
kind of
think?
thinking
What do
about.
you
I
think
was
at the
like,
end? Because he survives at the end and he walks away.
I like it. It's a bit on the nose, the whole facing your fears and the
Yeah,
monster shouting at him and he's shouting back at the monster. I was a wee bit, that's a little on the nose, but you know what? Still good. Still enjoyed it.
he's like releasing all his anger
Yeah.
and grief, and I think, and it's not just about grief; it's about denial. Like, because he's sort of questioning himself the whole way through the movie as well. He keeps asking Hutch, do you think it was my fault? And Hutch is saying no, and then later on, Hutch is kind of says, well, I don't know, mate.
Yeah.
So he's questioning himself and questioning, um, should he have been more of a brave man in that moment? But when he comes out of the woods at the end, he releases all that. You're right, it is a bit on the nose, but it's still a good scene. I think Rafe
Yeah.
Spall's really good in this.
Yeah.
I really like him
Fantastic.
anyway. I've always been quite a fan of him. Um, any time I've seen him in anything, he's always give a good performance. So I would say this is one of his better performances. What else has he been in? He was in Hot Fuzz, wasn't he? He was one
Aye.
of the cops in Hot Fuzz. Um, he's usually a bit of a dick though, isn't he? He
Yeah.
plays like an evil character.
He's normally either a dick or comedy. Which
Aye,
again, we see him in this and be quite serious, apart from when he sparks out an old lady.
I true.
Yeah, he plays it really well.
Yeah. No, good actor, very good actor. Loved the movie. Uh, Big thumbs up from me, and really excited to see what director David Bruckner does with Hellraiser. Super, super excited to see that. Big fan of Hellraiser, the original, so I'm all up for this new one that's coming out soon. Um, but that's all we've got time for, Danny. Is there anything else you want to say before we head off?
Just to remind everybody that they should like,
Mm-hmm.
comment,
Mm-hmm.
and subscribe. And make
Please
sure to
do.
hit that bell icon as well. And welcome back. Welcome back to Monday Night Frights. We're
Welcome
so
back.
glad to be back. And we hope that you'll enjoy having us back
Yes.
for season 6.
Season 6, yeah.
Season 666.
Oh, yeah, we're super excited to be back, and really appreciate all the love and support that you give us over the summer period when we didn't have the show. But just a little thing as well, actually, before we go, um, if you go on to our website, we have a competition where you can win a copy of Hellbender on DVD. Hellbender was a fantastic Shudder original created by the Addams family, not the Addams family,
The
different
Addams
Addams family.
Family.
Yep. Fantastic family, very creative. They write and direct and edit all their films and shoot all their films themselves. So please go and check that out. It is on our pinned tweet on our Twitter as well. There's a link to it. All you have to do is click on the link and go in and fill out the form, put your name and email address, and we'll pick a winner out of a hat in another week or two. Um, and you could win that Hellbender DVD. So please do that.
Nice.
And you could win a DVD, boy,
We ducked it.
for free. We gave away a couple of Blu-rays there 2 weeks ago.
We did.
Aye, fucking hammer Blu-rays. Fucking wish I could enter those competitions.
But we don't
But
because
we
we're
don't,
fair.
because we are fair. Yes, we are. So please do that, and please continue to support us on Instagram and Twitter at the Fright Club NI, and please check out the website at www.thefrightclubni.com and listen to Danny and like and subscribe the video. Tell all your horror pals about us and leave some comments. Let us know what you think of the ritual. Are you excited for Hellraiser 2?
Mm-hmm.
Hellraiser
Hellraiser
also,
2
not not
also,
not
yeah.
Hellraiser 2,
Not
Hellraiser
Hellraiser 2,
also.
but Hellraiser
Yes, yes,
also.
yes.
Yeah, and also tell us about any demonic dinosaur movies that you're aware of,
Yes.
and also what you would call your demonic dinosaur.
What's your favorite dinosaur, and what would the demonic version of it be?
Mine's called Terry.
I know. Terry.
What's yours called, Kev?
Mine's called Jim.
Spooky dinosaur, demonic dinosaur for Jim.
Jim. That's easy to remember. So anyway, we're gonna head off here. As always, stay safe, take care. We'll see you next week. Bye.
Right.